I was running a little late on that. Alright, let me do the audio check. We'll see if I can hear myself. I was running a little late on that. Okay, I can hear myself. How you guys doing? I don't have too many people in here right now. Excuse all the noise. There's going to be traffic and shit because it's really hot today. So I have the windows open. I'll open it even more, actually. And so you're going to hear some noise. I can't help it. It's really hot today, and I just finished cooking dinner. So for my sister and my niece and stuff. So the oven was being used. It's like fucking hot. You know what I mean? It's hot. So sorry about the noise. Hopefully people come in here. Yeah, please make more cooking videos. People keep asking me to do that. I know. I gotta do that. I also have some Cello olive oil. So there's this Croatian guy, Cello olive oil, and he sent me some olive oil, some very expensive olive oil from Croatia, and I promised him to do cooking videos with it, so I have to promote him and do these videos. We'll do it. Too hot to cook, had Thai takeout instead. Yeah, I know, I figured that might be a thing. God damn it, there's only 8 people in here. You guys gotta help me promote these things, you know what I mean? retweet, help me out. Speaking of, if you guys want to help me out, reach my goal over here. I have a few days to reach that goal. What's the date? We got like until like tomorrow to reach this goal. I don't know how I'm gonna pay rent. So if you want to help me out to do that, you can click the link that's over here. Let me make it bigger. It's streamlabs.com/Martina Markota TV, and that helps me survive. So yeah, thank you very much. Okay, we got 14. So I'm getting more people in here. I gotta get them in here. Slattern, noun, please use in a sentence. Thank you, fuck Google, too. That's something that we learned in this etiquette stream, actually, is that Emily Post, the leading author on etiquette, everybody should know the name Emily Post, okay? Most people, older people, if you say Emily Post, they know what that means. They use it actually as like a phrase, like something Emily Post, or they reference Emily Post, and that means etiquette. So Emily Post, and the book was published in 1922. She's a leading author on etiquette in America. So, and she uses some funny words sometimes, and we learned slattern, which is like a dirty woman. Not degenerate, but like physically unkempt. Just disheveled and dirty. Smoking hot, drinking my iced seltzer water mixed with some cranberry juice. Alright. The problem is YouTube is messing with content creators. Yeah, that's right, James. You actually told me that I should schedule the stream. Damn it. I gotta schedule streams. Okay, I'll try that tomorrow and see how that works. Scheduling the stream. Yeah. Oh well, we'll figure it out. So today we're back to etiquette, and we have to finish up a chapter, actually. Fuck Google too. Thank you so much. Came in with the $2. Came in with the $2. Thank you. Alright, let's try to get the window capture open. Ooh, that's not right. Sorry guys. Why is this being retarded? Come on, Emily Post, get the book open. Where's the preview? Don't do this to me. But okay, there we go. Whew. Okay, here we go. So yeah, we were working on the chapter on the well-appointed home, and there were so many things. Let's just go back actually to this thing. And I don't think I even wrote down everything, but yeah, we went through becoming furniture, the blindness of sentiment to determine an object's worth, service, because that's the whole point of the well-appointed home. It's actually about the service of your home, and how many servants for correct service, the secretary, who is also companion, varied social standing of the private secretary, the social secretary, the housekeeper, the organization of a great house, the butler in small houses, what the butler wears, the house footman, the footman's livery, the cook, how a cook submits the menu. It's all really interesting stuff, actually. The kitchen maid, the parlor maid, the housemaid, uniforms, the lady's maid, why 2 maids, dress of a lady's maid, and I think we were at valet, maybe, and the nurse. We were right at the end here, and courtesy to one's household, but then it continued on. The chapter actually goes on. So let's see where we're at. Let's just start with the nurse. So everybody knows the nurse is either the comfort or the torment of the house. Everyone also knows innumerable young mothers who put up with the inexcusable crankiness from a crotchety middle-aged woman because she was so wonderful to the baby. Oh my god. Let me read that again. Everybody knows the nurse is either the comfort or the torment of the house. Everyone also knows innumerable young mothers who put up with inexcusable crankiness from a crotchety middle-aged woman because she was so wonderful to the baby. And here, let it be emphasized that such an one usually turns out to have been not wonderful to the baby at all. That she does not actually abuse a helpless infant is merely granting that she is not a monster. Devotion must always be unselfish. The nurse who is really wonderful to the baby is pretty sure to be a person who is kind generally. In 99 cases out of 100, the sooner a domineering nurse, old or young, is got rid of, the better. Okay. James, $5. Thank you. Thanks, James. Let me see what you said here. I gotta open up the Streamlabs. Oops. Alright. Nice. Hot evening for some ice cream. That's true, that's true. How does it say $10? A crotchety brat. That's right. Crotchety. Schedule streams ahead of time and you'll get more numbers. God damn it, you guys gotta remind me that. Jay, can you remind me that in Discord? Thank you very much. Okay, where are we? Oops, I wasn't reading in front of the page for you guys. I might actually even make this even bigger. Bigger! There we go. Alright, the crotchety, they're basically saying, get rid of someone that's just like a... Oh god, this noise is distracting. How's the noise for you guys? Is it distracting for you? I don't know. Just let me know if the traffic is too distracting. But yeah, so they're basically saying, young or old, get rid of a domineering nurse, sooner the better. And someone that is right is a kind and humane person, always. So is generally a nice person. In 99 cases out of 100, the sooner a domineering nurse, young or old, is got rid of, the better. It has been the experience of many a mother whose life had been made perfectly miserable through her belief that if she dismissed the tyrant, the baby would suffer. That in the end, there is always an end. The baby was quite as relieved as the rest of the family when the right sort of a kindly and humane person took the tyrant's place. It is unnecessary to add that one cannot be too particular in asking for a nurse's reference and in never failing to get a personal one from the lady she is leaving. Cats are trying to get in here now. Not only is it necessary to have a sweet-tempered, competent and clean person, but her moral character is of utmost importance, since she is to be the constant and inseparable companion of the children whose whole lives are influenced by her example, especially where busy parents give only a small portion of time to their children. Okay, the nurse or the nanny? That's kind of confusing. I'm not sure why they call that the nurse. I guess. I'm checking on you guys. How's that traffic sounding? It's too bad when people involved. I gotta close windows. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Goddamn motorcycles. Now I'm gonna like heat up in here. I'm gonna end up like heating up because it's just too much noise. Oh, I should point that fan at myself. Oh, God. Oh, man, you guys could see, like, I just pulled this shirt out of like the closet. It's like a mess. You guys can see that. Damn. All right. Talk about slattern, man. Whew. Okay. The courtesy to one's household. In a dignified house, a servant is never spoken to as Jim, Maisie, or Katie, but always as James or Margaret or Catherine. And a butler is called by his last name nearly always. The Worldlies, remember them? The Worldlies' butler, for instance, is called Hastings, not John. In England, a lady's maid is also called by her last name, and the cook, if married, is addressed as Mrs., and the nurse is always called nurse. A chef is usually called chef or else by his last name. Always abroad and everywhere else, well-bred lady or gentleman here say please in asking that something be brought to her or him. Please get me my book I left on the table in my room, or please give me some bread, or some bread please, or one can say equally politely and omit the please, I'd like some toast, but it is usual and instinctive to every lady or gentleman to add please. Please and thank you, just like we were always taught, right? That's what some people need to remember. Get those manners back. In refusing a dish at the table, one must say no thank you or no thanks, or else one shakes one's head. A head can be shaken politely or rudely. To be courteously polite and yet keep one's wall up is a thing every thoroughbred person knows how to do, and a thing that everyone who is trying to become such must learn to do. A rule can't be given because there isn't any. As said in other chapter, a well-bred person always lives within the walls of his personal reserve. A vulgarian who has no walls, or at least none that do not collapse at the slightest touch, but those who think they appear superior by being rude to others whom fortune has placed below them might as well, did they but know it, shout their own unexalted origin to the world at large, since by no other method could it be more widely published. Oh my God, that reminds me of a story. Whew. Lady Normal, that's right. Jay says, my generation sucks at manners. Yeah, those Zoomers, man. Whew. Hey, Matthias. That's great. He says, hey, Martina, glad to be here on another live reading. That's right. Yeah, another live reading. This time it's on etiquette. But yeah, so this reminds me of a story. Most people are not very disciplined because they live in materialism, said James. Okay, so I'm wondering if I should just like out the names, because fuck it, why do I care? But this reminds me of a time where I was living in DC, and there's the motorcycles again. I was living in DC, and when I was working at a Daily Caller, I always wore the vintage tweed outfits and everything. I was, I always had that proper like look, old school, vintage vibe. Look like a lady. And I was invited to Lucian's house. You guys remember Lucian? It's like that gay guy, did like Twinks for Trump type thing. Anyway, yeah, he was like, oh, come over to my house, blah, 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 blah. So after work, I went to his house, and he had Ali Akbar. Do you remember Ali? He calls himself Ali Alexander right now. But yeah, Ali Akbar, he was there, and of course, I introduce myself, I shake his hand, I act like a normal, dignified person who's well-bred, and he did something so bizarre, which is what they're talking about here, about having manners, or being rude to someone and acting like you're above them, and being rude shows that you're actually announcing to the world that you are not well-bred. And happened? We were talking about, like, I don't know, Loomer or something, and I was just, like, bitching about her about something, and then I quickly was like, oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, and because I don't know his standing with the girl, with Loomer. So I didn't want to just sit there and assume, just like people did with me in New York City, that, like, I'm anti-Trump and start talking and being like, right, and being like, well, actually, no, I don't agree with you. So I was just kind of, like, acting away as if people were agreeing with me. And then I stopped and was like, oh, I'm sorry, like, I don't know if you're friends with her. But either way, like, it doesn't matter, because I was trying to explain, like, I would say this in her company or anyone's company, but my point was, like, trying to, like, apologize, because I didn't want to assume that he agreed with me. And he just, like, cut me off and was like, what did he say? He cut me off and said, I don't really care what you think or something. I've been in the scene before you, and I'll be in the scene after you. He was just kind of like, I don't care about you, like, kind of thing. And I was like, excuse me? I was trying to be polite and apologize that I didn't want to assume you hate the same person that I do, and wanted to just be like, oh, and I think he cut me off because I was saying, but, like, I don't really care, because, like, I would say it in front of her too. And he just cut me off. He was like, well, I don't really care, like, blah blah blah. I've been in this, like, you're nobody. I've been in the scene before you, and I'll be in the scene after you. And I'm just like, wow, okay. Okay, then that was extremely rude. And it's just kind of like, you just met me. Who the fuck do you think I am that you can talk to me that way? And why do I give a shit about the scene? Anyway, it just reminded me of the story. And I'm going to say it again. A rule can't be given because there isn't any. As said in another chapter, a well-bred person always lives within the walls of his personal reserve. A vulgarian has no walls, or at least none that do not collapse on the slightest touch. But those who think they appear superior by being rude to others whom fortune has placed below them might as well, did they not know it, shout their own unexalted origin to the world at large, since by no other method could it be more widely published. Anyway, it's my story. So, the house with limited service, that would be like my house. The fact that you live in a house with 2 servants, or in an apartment with only 1, need not imply that your house lacks charm or even distinction, or that it is not completely the home of a lady or gentleman. But as explained in the chapter on dinners, if you have limited service, you must devise a systematic economy of the time and labor, or you will have disastrous consequences. Every person, after all, has only 1 pair of hands, and a day has only so many hours. And one thing is inevitable, which young housekeeper are apt to forget: a few cannot do the work of many, and do it the same way. It is all very well if the housemaid can... Everybody's out right now, riding their motorcycles. Anyway, every person, after all, has only 1 pair of hands, and a day has only so many hours. And one thing is inevitable, which young housekeepers are apt to forget: a few cannot do the work of many, and do it in the same way. It is all very well if the housemaid can not get into young Mrs. Gilding's room until lunchtime, nor does it matter if its confusion looks like the aftermath of the cyclone. The housemaid has nothing to do. The rest of the day but put that 1 room and bath in order. But in young Mrs. Gailey's small house, where the housemaid is also the waitress who is supposed to be dressed for lunch, it does not have to be pointed out that she cannot sweep, dust, tidy up rooms, wash out bathtubs, polish fixtures, and at the same time be dressed in afternoon clothes. If Mrs. Gailey is out for lunch, it is true the chambermaid waitress need not be dressed to wait on table, but her thoughtless young mistress would not be amiable if a visitor were to ring the doorbell in the early afternoon and have it opened by a maid in a rumpled working dress. Supposing the time to put the bedroom in order is from 10 to 11 each morning, it is absolutely necessary that Mrs. Gailey take her bath before 10, so that even if she is not otherwise dressed, she can be out of her bedroom and bath at 10 o'clock promptly. She can go elsewhere while her room is done up and then come back and finish dressing later. In this case, she must herself tidy any disorder that she makes in dressing, but put away her negligee and slippers and put back anything out of place. On the days when Mr. Gailey does not go to the office, he too must get up and get out so that the house can be put in order. I wish I had a maid. Damn. Damn. All right, let me see what you guys are chatting about. We're getting some people in here. That's great. Oh, they're just helping me with my channel. Dan said, the thing is, people who put others down rely on the idea of others being beneath them for their own sense of existence. If we were on the same plane, they'd have nothing to show their individuality. That's true. Tricky business while dealing with a pandemic. It's true. Another idea, invite people on your channel that have bigger channels so that you can interview them and talk about art, politics, etc. You might be able to win over some of their viewers. That's a good idea, but I don't think anyone gives a shit about me. But I'll write it down. Invite bigger streamers on my channel. I don't know who that would be. No one gives a shit about me. No one's gonna come on my channel. I mean, John Press is gonna come on. He popped in the chat last night, but I have more of a following than he does, so I want to help him out, and he has really, really great material. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people that do really great, solid work do not have a platform, and people that do the most basic bitch, stupid things have a platform. I don't know why people keep propping up grifters. It's so annoying. Anyway, basically those who put others down are dependent on those beneath them and therefore are actually the ones beneath. It's true. I salute all and stand in solidarity with our xenoform queen. Okay. I wish I had a servant, but we'd probably end up sitting around drinking beer together. Pay them in beer then. That's funny. I bet Sargon would talk to you for hours. That's true. I should reach out to him because he did seem fond of me. Sargon and also Black Pigeon Speak sometimes pops in here. Black Pigeon Speak sometimes. I think he likes me. I don't know who else. Alright, thank you guys. Giving me some options here. You have had bad things happen to you that other larger channels would be interested in hearing about. That's true. It sucks what you have to go through. I'm here in support. Thank you so much, Puma. That means a lot. Who's Jay Dyer? I don't know who that is. I don't know. Are you sure you're not drinking the blood of the liberals? That's funny. Someone else who's into art. That's true. Well, you know, Joe Rogan ignores anyone unless you're an E-Slug grifter, so I don't know. We'll see. Let's get back to it, though. Okay, the one maid alone. But where one maid alone cooks, cleans, waits on a table, and furthermore serves as lady's maid and valet, she must necessarily be limited in the performance of each of these duties in direct proportion to their number. Even though she be eagerly willing, Quality must give way before quantity produced with the same equipment. Or if quality is necessary, then quantity must give way. In the house of a fashionable gay couple like the Lovejoys, I think they mean like happy. This was published in 1922. In the house of a fashionable gay couple like the Lovejoys, for instance, the time spent in maiding or valeting has to be taken from cleaning or cooking. Besides cleaning and cooking, the one maid in their small apartment can press out Mrs. Lovejoy's dress and do a little mending, but she cannot sit down and spend 1 or 2 hours going over a dress in the same way that a specialist maid can. Either Mrs. Lovejoy herself must do the sewing or the housework, or one or the other must be left undone. The management of servants. Okay. It is certainly a greater pleasure and inconvenience, It is certainly a greater pleasure and incentive to work for those who are appreciative than for those who continually find faults. That's something important to remember. Everyone who did war work cannot fail to remember how easy it was to work for or with some people, and how impossible to get anything done for others. And just as the heads of working rooms or wards or canteens were either stimulating or dispiriting, so must they and their types also be those who serve in their household. This perhaps explains why some people are always having a servant problem, finding servants difficult to get, more difficult to keep, and most difficult to get efficient work from. It is a question whether the servant problem is not more often a mistress problem. It must be, because if you notice, those who have woes and complaints are invariably the same, just as others who never had any trouble are also the same. It does not depend on the size of the house. The Lovejoys never have any trouble, and yet their one maid of all work has a far from easy place, and a vacancy at Brook Meadows is always sought after. Even though the old names spend 10 months of the year in the country, neither is there any friction at the Golden Hall or Great Estates, even though the latter house is run by the butler, an almost inevitable cause of trouble. The houses represent a difference in range from 1 alone to nearly 40 on the household payroll. Okay, so these households represent a difference in range from 1 alone to nearly 40 on the household payroll. Man, could you imagine having 40 servants? That would be awesome. Having 1 servant would be awesome, but having like an entire payroll of servants would be fucking awesome. Alright, let me catch up to what you guys are saying. Get someone else who's into art. That's a good idea. You just said it. They uphold basic junk because it's like putting others down. If celebs make trash, you can make trash and you feel better and you feel at their level while holding down true talent like yourself. Thank you. I bet Steven Crowder would do a piece with you. I've been trying to like talk to Crowder since like 2016. I've just given up on all these celebs. All high and mighty. He's into a lot of intellectual stuff. He talks about espionage, movies. He's mentioned the CIA infiltration of the art scene. Oh, that sounds great. That's the Dyer guy. Okay, I'll look into him. Thank you. I've had a lot of artistic opportunities open up because I've taken long shots reaching out to people. It's very true. Jay is laughing at gay people. Dan said, Rogan's talked about aliens, philosophy, all kinds of stuff. Joe Ditto. Mattia says, try to reach the Free Speech Union. They're an organization from the UK, and I think they would like to hear your story. I will write that down too. What is it? Free Speech Union in the UK. Thank you guys. It's really sweet. Honestly, I don't know how Martina did not blow up in popularity after anchoring for Rebel News and her short piece on InfoWars. I don't know. I don't get it. You got like the ugliest, dumbest chicks that pop up. out of nowhere, but all right. Let's see what you guys are talking about again. And mistress problem, LOL. Why not do a couple of videos explaining how the principles of alchemy are applicable to life now? Could get interest and give you something to talk about on larger channel streams. Can't be that many people modernizing alchemy, and that's true. Short videos, short vids, alchemy and stuff. I just get overwhelmed by, like, I mean, I shouldn't, because working at the Collar and Rebel, I had to write scripts and film myself and edit and do all that stuff, but sometimes I get, like, really overwhelmed trying to make things, like, super perfect, so I shouldn't do that. Ah, Michael Von Doom. Senpai has noticed you. Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys. Love ya. Alright, where are we at? Can you guys see this? I'm going to switch the screen so that you can see this picture. It's still kind of cut off a bit, I think. Yeah. Yeah, cute little house, well-appointed house. It's really annoying because sometimes this like ebook does this really weird spacing. It's really annoying. The perfect mistress shows all those in her employ the consideration and trust due them as honorable, self-respecting, and conscious human beings. That is so sweet. Yeah, exactly. Perfect mistress shows those in her employment that their consideration and trust and honor and self-respect and conscious and being conscious human beings. Cool. Okay. Those who have persistent trouble. It might be well for those who have trouble to remember a few rules which are often overlooked. Justice must be the foundation upon which every tranquil house is constructed. Work must be as evenly divided as possible. One servant should not be allowed liberties not accorded to all. It is not just to be too lenient any more than it is just to be. It is not just to be too lenient any more than it is just to be unreasonably strict. To allow impertinence or sloppy work is inexcusable, but it is equally inexcusable to show causeless irritability or to be overbearing or rude. And there is no greater example of injustice than to reprimand those about you because you happen to be in a bad humor. Bad humor! Not a bad mood, but in bad humor. And at another time overlook offenses that are greater because you are in an amiable mood. Okay, there is also no excuse for correcting either servant or child before people. Okay, so that is a really, really interesting point. That last one right there is like huge, that people need to remember things. There is no excuse for correcting either a servant or child before people. So this reminds me when I was an RA, a resident assistant in college. One of the major rules actually that we had was in front of other residents, you don't correct other RAs, resident assistants. Like, I don't know, what is it? Residents? In front of the other, like, dorm people that, like, aren't RAs, you don't, like, correct other RAs and what they're doing wrong or whatever. Because it shows, like, I don't know, it's just extremely rude, and it shows, like, an inequality between the RAs and, like, different levels, and it's, like, it's just incredibly rude. You don't do that. So that's something that I've always kept with me, is that you don't do that kind of stuff when you're in a position of power or whatever, that you're like, you have different levels with people. You don't, among the patrons or whatever, criticize, critique, correct, or, you know, start yelling at someone in front of, like, other patrons and stuff. Like, you just don't do that. But that's an interesting point, that you don't do it to children either. because I tend to do that with my niece. Oops. I like to reprimand her, and I think that it shows others that, like, we're not just, like, raising a spoiled little brat, you know? But I guess that's a good point. It creates, yeah, I could see that. I'm going to take that. So you learn something new every day. Huh. It's unprofessional, yeah. American corporations should take note. That's true. All right. Let's see. And when you do correct, do not forget to make allowances if there be any reason why allowances should be made. If you live in a place like Golden Hall or any completely equipped house of important size, you overlook nothing. There is no more excuse for delinquency than there is in the army. If anything happens, such as illness of one servant, there is another to take his or her place. A huge household is a machine, and it is the business of the engineers, in other words, the secretary, housekeeper, chef, or butler, to keep it going perfectly. But in a little house, it may not be fair to say, Selma, the silver is dirty, when there is a hot air furnace and you have had company to every meal, and you have perhaps sent her on errands between times, and she has literally not had a moment. If you don't know whether she has had time or not, you could give her the benefit of the doubt and say, trustfully, not haughtily, you have not had time to clean the silver, have you? This in case she has really been unable to clean it, points out just as well the fact that it is not shining, but it is not criticism. Carelessness, on the other hand, when you know she has had plenty of time, should never be overlooked. Yeah, and that's exactly a good point, too. You know, it's like, you can say things in a really, like, way where it's like, you get your answer, but you're not criticizing them. It's like, oh, you haven't had the time to do this, right? It's like, that doesn't sound pointed. That doesn't seem offensive at all. It's just kind of like, no, I haven't had the time, so that's not done. I've been doing this, this, and that. But there's certainly time where there's carelessness, and that should not be overlooked, says Emily Post. Let me just check in on you guys. Don't be haughty, be naughty. That's right, Azura. Work won't let you watch live. Something, Michael. That sucks. Okay. That sucks, Michael. Well, tune in later, I guess. Another type that has difficulties is the distrustful, sometimes actually suspicious person who locks everything tight and treats all those with whom she comes in contact as though they were meddlesomely curious at least, or at worst, dishonest. It is impossible to overstate the misfortune of this temperament. The servant who is watched for fear that she won't work, listened to for fear that she may be gossiping, suspected of wanting to take liberty of some sort, or of doing something else she shouldn't do, is psychologically encouraged, almost driven to do these very things. Oh my God, that's another fantastic point, Emily Post. I've definitely had bosses that were like constantly watching and overlooking and you know, constantly criticizing and stuff, and distrust. Kind of felt that way at Daily Caller, to be fair. Not that it was like distrust, but it was just like constant up my ass, where it was like I felt like I couldn't do anything without being like criticized or, you know, told to do something differently, and like watching how I'm doing it like that. And it's like, all right, like, can I just like do me, please? Like, I'll do better work if you make the environment better. I've also been a server many a times, but I'm a pretty good server. I'm a good servant, yeah. The perfect mistress expects perfect service, but it never occurs to her that perfect service will not be voluntary and gladly given. She, on her part, shows all of those in her employment consideration and trust due them as honorable, self-respecting, and conscious human beings. If she has reason to think they are not all this, a lady does not keep them in her house. It's true. Yeah, Dan says I hate bosses like that. Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh God, can you just like stop? You hired me for a reason, so let me just do what I do. I don't need you like hovering over me like this, watching and then criticizing every time I do something wrong. Chill. It's not even like doing anything wrong. It's like just waiting to like point something out that could be like different or change or what have you. But Benny Johnson was great. They loved him. He got awards at the holiday party. He was Rookie of the Year. They love Benny Johnson. So, sure, you could take that cringe. Take it. I'm just going to roll myself a little something. I don't know why. I'm not going to have time to smoke it here, but I'm just going to have a little break on that note. Bitching about fucking Benny Johnson getting awards. Fucking hell, man. That's conservative media for you. That's conservative media. Fucking Benny Johnson. They were also interviewing Joy Villa. They were doing the works. The works. Cringe works. That's what they were doing. Yeah, exactly. They love Benny. They also told me not to wear my vintage tweed outfits. Wear something more modern and show cleavage. I was like, my vintage outfits are dope. Like, you need to get on these aesthetics. Like, you don't know what you're doing. Anyway. Okay, where are we at? What do I feel like? Right, does not keep. Etiquette of service. The well-trained, high-class servant is faultlessly neat in appearance. What the fuck is that word? I'm gonna look this up.
Reticent.
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 Not revealing one's thoughts or feelings readily. Wow, reticent. Learn a new vocab word every single stream.
Reticent.
Reticent. Not revealing one's thoughts or feelings readily. She was extremely reticent about her personal affairs. Wow. Okay. Okay. The well-trained high-class servant is faultlessly neat in appearance, reticent in manner, speaks in a low voice, walks and moves quickly but silently, and is unfailingly courteous and respectful. Hold on one second, my sister just came home. Okay. Just told her food's in the oven. And then I'm streaming. Okay. Unfailingly courteous and respectful. Speaks in a low voice. I love that. Okay. Reticent in manner. Speaks in a low voice. Walks and moves quickly. I love that. But silently. And is unfailingly courteous and respectful. That sounds fantastic. That's how I always work. And I'm just shocked that people don't do that either when they're at work. Yeah. She or he always knocks on a door, even if even of the library or sitting room, but opens it without waiting to hear come in, as knocking on a downstairs door is merely politeness. At a bedroom door, she would wait for permission to enter. In answering a bell, she asked, "Did you ring, sir?" Or if especially well-mannered, she asked, "Did Madame ring?" Oh, I love that. Did Madame ring? I love that. I love it, I love it, I love it. A servant always answers, "Yes, madame," or "Very good, sir." Never "Yes, no, all right, sure." Young people in the house are called Miss Alice or Mr. Ollie, possibly Mr. Oliver, but they are generally called by their familiar names with the prefix of Miss or Mr. Younger children are called Miss Kitty and Master Fred, but never by the nurse, who calls them by their first names until they are grown, sometimes always. All cards and small packages are presented on a tray. Remember that card tray from like chapter 1 or some shit? Time out and in. No doubt in the far-off district there are occasional young women who work long and hard for little compensation, but at least in all cities, servants have their definite time out. Furthermore, they are allowed in humanely run houses to have times in when they can be at home to friends who come and see them. In every well-appointed house of size, there is a sitting room which furnished with comfortable chairs and sofa if possible, a good drop light to read by, often books, and always magazines sent out as soon as read by the family. In other words, they have an inviting room to use as their own, exactly as though they were living at home. If no room is available, the kitchen has a cover put on the table, a drop light, and a few restful chairs are provided. Okay, so always provide some space. Holy shit, that's a bug. What is that? Is that like a bumblebee? Oh god. Fucking hell. Yeah, anyway. Alright, how are you guys doing? I'm gonna show a little bit. How long have we been going? Damn, we've been like going for an hour. I might take a break for a few minutes, go to the bathroom, grab some dinner, have my smoke. Sun's going down, turn that light on. Oof. So yeah, if you guys want to help me out, you can always do so. Help me reach my goal by tomorrow. Probably won't help reach it, but you know, help me move that goal along. That'd be fantastic. You can do that by going to this link over here. It's streamlabs.com/Martina Markota TV. Thank you so much. Let me see what your comments are. Alright. Any comments, concerns, super chats, Streamlab donations, let me know now. I have one more minute and then I'm going to go on a break. And you guys can enjoy a nice little commercial with some Lady Alchemy shit. Yep. Damn, you guys don't have a problem with Villa, a lot of you guys. Well, I mean, like, she's not a bad person, but... Oh. Thank you. Got 20 Canadian bucks. Canadian bucks worth nowadays. Thank you.
I just dropped in to support you.
Thank you, man. How do you say that? Is that French? Lanugo? Lanugi? That's what I'm going to call you. Lanugi. That's what you are. Lady Alchemy, Rose Crossing. That's right. Yeah, anyway, to answer your questions on Joy Villa, No, I mean, like, I don't hate her because she's not a bad person like other people are and other e-subs are. It's just I'm annoyed because she's pretty cringy and, like, she's a Scientologist and she definitely is an opportunist who did not vote for Trump. She was anti-Trump. She was right up to the election being against Trump. And then she decided after Trump won that it would be a good opportunity to just like plaster MAGA all over herself and get some attention. And it was the best decision she ever made because look what happened to her. So, yeah, anyway. So, off topic, says Matias. When I was a kid, I had a pet turtle named Martina. No way. Just wanted to put that strange coincidence out there. No fucking way. Who names a turtle Martina? That's so funny. Yeah, she supports Trump now because it made her famous and that's her whole shtick. But, like, motherfuckers, like, what about people like me who actually voted for them and lost a career, didn't gain a career voting for Trump? So, it's worth $4 American. Oh my God, stop. Oh my God. Lanuki. I know that's not how you say it, but that's what you are
It's
to
worth
me.
$4 American.
Yeah, I know it's worth a little less, but I don't think it's worth $4. I watched a couple of her videos, but I wasn't impressed, to be honest. She seems cool though. Yeah, I mean, like, she seems like genuinely a nice person, so I'll be fair and say she seems like a nice person. But I'm just annoyed by the grifting in the scene and how people prop up grifting, and that I don't really care for her like super MAGA kind of like art or music or whatever dressing. It's just like it's too like it's bad. It's bad. Yeah, exactly, nation state. She's not the problem. It's the so-called conservative types on YouTube and Twitter that keep promoting her and others. And that's my main issue is like people promoting like the grifter types and the cringe. Like, why is Benny Johnson in this position? Sadly, you cannot play the race card, so that defense is not available to you. Yeah, I know. Why can't I play the woman card or the arts card or some sort of card? I mean, like, what the fuck? Even the women that we prop up, or even the other white women or whatever women that we prop up, they're like fucking basic shit. Like, average. What the fuck? No one has any taste on the conservative side, man. Man, that's what I miss about my liberal arts world. At least they had, like, yeah, sure, some of them were, like, bad taste, and they did stupid, like, pull something out of your vagina act, or, like, some sort of stupid thing. But generally, like, the art world that I was around did have some really cool-ass shit and aesthetics and stuff. I'm just sick of the cringe. So, yeah, that's what I'm annoyed with. Anyway, alright, I'm gonna have a quick little break. I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Just chill and enjoy the commercials, enjoy the art. Check out my non-like screaming MAGA artwork and aesthetics. So enjoy. See you guys in a few minutes.
Every morning I wake up and open palm slam a VHS into the slot. It is Chronicles of Riddick. Chronicles of Riddick. Every morning I wake up and open palm slam a VHS into the slot. It is Chronicles of Riddick. Chronicles of Riddick. And right then and there I start doing the moves alongside with the main character, Riddick. And right then and there I start doing the moves alongside with the main character, Riddick. I do every move and I do every move hard. Making whooshing sounds when I slam down some necro bastards, or even when I mess up technique. Not many can say they escaped the galaxy's most dangerous prison.
I can.
And I say it out loud. I say it and I say it out loud. I say it and I say it out loud. I say it and I say it out loud. I say it and say it out loud. I say it and I say it out loud. I say it and I say it out loud. I say it and I say it out loud. I say it and I say it out loud. I say it and I say it out loud. I say it and I say it out loud.
All right. Hey guys. How's it going. Oop, shoot. I should mute myself here. Damn. Sorry. Messed up my thing. My control room. Alright, there we go. Hey, welcome back, guys. Hope you enjoyed the commercial. I always lose a few viewers during commercial. It sucks. I wish you guys enjoyed the art a little bit more. You know what I mean? I say it out loud. I say it out loud. Anyway, where are we at? So let's see how much more. I know we're towards the end of this chapter, but we're at the maid's men friends. Ooh, maid has some men friends. We were just going over the servants having like access to a break room, whether it's like the common the drawing room or something, and if that's not available, to have some sort of room in the kitchen or somewhere with a light and table and some comfortable chairs where they can just like chill and sit. That's important for the servants. But in regards to the maid's men friends, let's see what that's about. But let me just see what else we have here. Service in formal entertaining. Ooh, I love that. Oh God. Okay, we're almost done here. So service in formal entertaining on the sidewalk and in the hall, dressing rooms, the announcement of guests, the announcement of dinner, dining room service at private entertainments, formal service without men servants. That's it. And the next chapter will be teas and other afternoon parties. Can't wait for that. That's fun. So let's get to it. The maid's men friends. The maids allowed to are maids allowed to receive men friends? Certainly they are. Whoever in remote ages thought it was better to forbid followers in the house. What is this sentence? Whoever in remote ages thought it was better to forbid followers the house and have Mary and Selma slip out of the doors to meet them in the dark had very distorted notions, to say the least. And any lady who knows so little of human nature as to make the same rule for their maids today is acting in ignorant blindness of her own duties to those who are not only in her employ, but also under her protection. A pretty young woman whose men friends come in occasionally and play cards with others or dance to a small and not loud phonograph in the kitchen, is merely being treated humanely. Because she wears a uniform makes her no less a young girl, with a young girl's love of amusement, which, if not properly provided for her at home, will be sought for in sinister places. That's true. This responsibility is one that many ladies who are occupied with charitable and good works elsewhere often overlook under their own roof. It does not mean that the kitchen should be a scene of perpetual revelry and mirth that can be any chance disturb the quiet of the neighborhood or even the family. Unseemly noise is checked at once, much as it would be if young people in the drawing room became disturbing. Continuous company is not suitable either, and those who abuse privileges naturally must have them curtailed. But the really high-class servant who does not appreciate kindness and requite it with consideration and proper behavior is rare. Okay, so let the young lady servants have friends come over, as long as they are allowed to just act like normal people and do it in the house, then they won't go out and sneak out and do sinister things. Oh God, my eyes are itchy. That reminded me when I was a nanny, and I was a nanny to this family, and when they would go out on vacation, they took me too. And there were moments where I was able to have breaks and hang out with the other people my age, and kids, and girls and boys, and I had curfews and whatnots, but it's like I had my time to enjoy and hang out at the beach and do whatever after my duties were done, and I think that is really important. It makes work fun. Okay, so service and formal entertaining on the sidewalk and in the hall. For a wedding or a ball, and sometimes for teas and big dinners, there is an awning from curb to front door. But usually, especially in good weather, a dinner or other moderate-sized evening entertainment is prepared for by stretching a carpet, a red one invariably, down the front steps, across the pavement, and to the curb's edge. At all important functions, there is a chauffeur or a caterer's man on the sidewalk to open the door of motors, and a footman or waitress stationed inside the door of the house to open it on one's approach. The same servant, or more often another stationed in the hall beyond, directs arriving guests to the dressing rooms. This reminds me, I guess I was a servant because I did work in catering for many years, and that reminds me of my catering days. And there were like the valets and the different servants doing different things. And this was, for bigger functions. I don't know if you guys ever attend these sorts of events. Definitely had private functions and events where there were all these servants and all these things. And yes, there were carpets, there were awnings, there were all these things that they talk about in this. It still goes on today, believe it or not. And then I worked my way into being an event entertainer, and I became not the servant, but the entertainment. And that was a really fun job too. Again, there would be these private events, really wealthy mansions and rich people having events and parties, and being the entertainer was way cooler because you got different respect. And I would definitely have my own area. I would get served the food that they were serving. I would get treated really, really well. I miss those days. That was great. Dressing rooms. Houses, especially built for entertaining, have two small rooms on the ground floor, each with its lavatory and off of it a rack for hanging of coats and wraps. In most houses, however, guests have to go upstairs where two bedrooms are set aside, one as ladies and the other as gentlemen coat rooms. At an afternoon tea in houses where dressing rooms have not been installed by the architect, the end of the hall, if it is wide, is sometimes supplied with a coat rack, which may be rented from a caterer for the gentlemen. Ladies are, in this case, supposed to go into the drawing room as they are, or go upstairs into the bedroom and put their disposal in charge of a lady's maid or housemaid. If the entertainment is very large, checks are always given to avoid confusion in the dressing rooms, exactly as in public check rooms. In the ladies' dressing room, whether downstairs or up, there must be an array of toilet necessities such as brushes and combs, well-placed mirrors, hairpins, powder with stacks of individual cotton balls, or a roll of cotton in a receptacle from which it may be pulled. In the lavatory, there must be fresh soap and plenty of small hand towels, the lady's personal maid, and one or two assistants if necessary, depending upon the size of the party, but one and all of them as neatly dressed as possible, assist ladies off and on with their wraps, and give them coat checks. A lady's maid should always look the arriving guests over, not boldly nor too apparently, but with a quick glance for anything that may be amiss. If the drapery of a dress is caught up in its trimming, or a fastening undone, it is her duty to say, "Excuse me, madame or miss, but there is a hook undone," or "The drapery of your gown is caught, shall I fix it?" which she does as quietly and quickly as possible. If there is a rip of any sort, she says, "I think there is a thread loose, I'll just tack it with, it will only take a moment." The well-bred maid instinctively makes little of a guest's accident, and is as considerate as the hostess herself. Employees instinctively adopt the attitude of their employer. That's true. When I was catering, it was certainly you were there to help the guests and represent the house that you were working for sure. Ooh. In the gentleman's coat room of a perfectly appointed house of the valet's attitude is much the same. If a gentleman's coat should have met with any accident, the valet says, the valet, excuse me, it's not valet, it's valet, because we went over that last time during the valet section, and they told you how to pronounce it. "Excuse me, let me have a fix for you, sir, it'll only take a moment." And his And he divests the gentleman of his coat and takes it to a maid and asks her to please take a stitch in it. Meanwhile, he goes back on his duties in the dressing room until it is sure the coat is finished, when he gets it and politely helps the owner into it. In a small country house where dressing room space is limited, the quaint tables copied from old ones are very useful, screened off at the back of the downstairs hall or in a very small lavatory. They look, when shut, like an ordinary table, but when the top is lifted, a mirror, the height of the table's width, swings forward, and a series of small compartments and trays, both deep and shallow, are laid out on either side. The trays, of course, are kept filled with hairpins, pins and powder, and the compartments have sunburn lotion and liquid powder, brush, comb, and whisk broom, and whatever else the hostess thinks will be useful. Cute. Cute. I have that song in my head now. Ooh. The announcement of guests. The butler's duty is to stand near the entrance to the reception or drawing room, and as each guest arrives, unless they are known to him, he asks, "What name, please?" He then leads the way into the room where the hostess is receiving and says distinctively, "Mr. and Mrs. Jones." If Mr. and Mrs. Jones is considerably in advance of her husband, he says, "Mrs. Jones." Then he waits for Mr. Jones to approach before announcing Mr. Jones. At a very large party, such as a ball or a very big tea or musical, he does not leave his place. But stands just outside the drawing room, and the hostess stands just within. And as the guests pass through the door, he announces each one's name. I love that. It is said to be customary in certain places to have waitresses announce people, but in New York, guests are never announced if there are no men servants. At a very large function, such as a ball or tea, a hostess who has no butler at home always employs one for the occasion. If, for instance, she is giving a ball for her daughter and all the sons and daughters of her own acquaintance are invited, the chances are that not half or even quarter of her guests are known to her by slight, so that their announcement is not mere matter of form but necessity. All right. The announcement of dinner. When the butler, on entering the room to announce dinner, happens to catch the attention of the hostess, he merely bows. Cute. Otherwise, he approaches within speaking distance and says, "Dinner is served." He never says, "Dinner is ready." Okay. At a large dinner where it is quite a promenade to circle the table in search of one's name, the butler stands just within the dining room and either reads from a list or says from memory right or left, as the case may be, to each gentleman and lady on approaching. In a few of the smartest houses, a leaf has been taken from the practice of royalty and a table plan arranged in the front hall, which is shown to each gentleman at the moment when he takes the envelope enclosing the name of his partner at dinner. This table plan is merely a diagram made in leather with white name cards that slip into places corresponding to the seat at the table. On this, a gentleman can see exactly where he sits and between whom, so that if he does not know the lady who is to be on his left as well as the one he is to take in, he has plenty of time before going to the table to ask his host to present him. Remember, you're always presenting people, not introducing them. At the end of the evening, the butler is always at the front door, and by that time, unless the party is very large, he should have remembered their names. If he is a perfect butler and Mr. and Mrs. Jones appear, he opens the door and calls down to the chauffeur, "Mr. Jones's car." And in the same way, Mr. Smith's car, Miss Gilding's car. When a car is at the door, the chauffeur runs up the steps and says to the butler, "Miss Gilding's car," or "Mrs. Jones' car." The butler then announces to either Mr. or Mrs. Jones, "Your car, sir," or "Your car, madam," and holds the door open for her to go out. Or he may say, "Your car, miss," if the Gildings come first. Cute. Yep. Cute, cute, cute. Ooh. The dining room service at private entertainments. Supper at a ball in a great house big enough for a ball is usually in charge of the butler, who by supper time is free from his duties of announcing and is able to look after the dining room service. The sit-down supper at a ball is served exactly like dinner or a wedding breakfast, and the buffet supper of a dance is like the buffet of a wedding reception. At a large tea where the butler is on duty announcing at the time, the other guests are going into the dining room for refreshments. The dining room service has to be handed over to the first footman and his assistants, or a capable waitress is equally able to meet the situation. She should have at least 2 maids with her, as they have to pour all cups of tea and bouillon and chocolate, as well as take away used cups and plates and see that the food on the table is replenished. Yeah, I remember being a server. That was something that you constantly cleaning things, like constantly picking up the napkins and refolding it and putting it back, or taking away empty cups, or taking away the little like hors d'oeuvre things, and constantly like fussing about making sure everything's clean and replenished. At a small tea where ladies perform the service of pouring, 1 man or maid in the dining room is plenty to bring in more hot water or fresh cups or whatever the table hostess have need of. Cute. Okay. Oop. Almost done here, guys, on this chapter. Formal service without men's service. Many and very fastidious people who live in big houses and entertain constantly have neither men's service nor employ a caterer ever. Efficient women take men's places equally well, though two services are omitted. Women never, in New York at least, announce guests or open the doors of motors, but there is no difference whatsoever in the detail of pantry, dining room, hall, or dressing room, whether the services are performed by men or women. No women, of course, are ever on duty in the gentlemen's dressing rooms. Naturally. At an evening party, the door is opened by the waitress. So wait, just to make a distinction, this is exactly what I'm talking about, where it's like, Emily Post may have been like kind of progressive in 1922, but a lot of this stuff is very like anti-leftist, because do you see the distinction between men and women and their duties? Like, that is so not PC today. So I just find that interesting. Yeah, at an evening party, the door is opened by the waitress, assisted by the parlor maid who directs the way to the dressing rooms. The guests, when they are ready to go into the drawing room, approach the hostess unannounced. A guest who may not be known by sight does not wait for her hostess to recognize her, but says at once, "How do you do, Mrs. Eminent? I'm Mrs. Joseph Blank." Or a young girl says, "I'm Constance Style," not Miss Style, unless she is beyond the 20s. Okay. Or a married woman merely announces herself as Mrs. Town. She does not add her husband's name, as it is taken for granted that the gentleman following her is Mr. Town. Okay. Cool. So that's the well-appointed house. We went over all that stuff about service, formal service, announcements of dinner, announcements of guests, dressing rooms, the maid's men's friends, etiquette of service, time in and time out, those who have persistent troubles, the one maid alone, the management of service, courtesy to one's household, the house with limited service, the nurse, the valet, the lady's maid, why 2 maids, the dress of a lady's maid, the housemaid, uniforms, the kitchen maid, the parlor maid, the cook, how a cook submits the menu, the house footmen, the footmen's livery, their dressing attire. It's awesome, awesome stuff. The butler in smaller houses, what the butler wears, the organization of a great house, the housekeeper, the social secretary, varied social standing of the private secretary, the secretary who is also companion, how many service for correct service, how to determine an object's worth, the blindness of sentiment, and becoming furniture. So that's the chapter. This is chapter 12 on the well-appointed house. Really cool. So the next etiquette chapter we're working on will be chapter 13, teas and other afternoon parties. Yay! That's so exciting. I love a tea party. Love it, love it. We've got the Mr. Schnickers. Makes me wish that dinner parties make a comeback, then brunch. Screw brunch. Well, they do have a comeback. Like I said, when I was a caterer and when I was an event entertainer and all that stuff, these were the kind of parties that I went to and worked at. So, yeah, and people do this, and I think it's good to see the etiquette and how it is, and people on the left might need to remember a few of these things, and people on the right need to remember these things, and I think they're important. So yeah, that's that. I'll take any last questions, concerns, super chats. Don't forget super chats and Streamlabs. You can go to streamlabs.com/Martina Markota TV and help me out if you like the educational content, cultural educational content. Yeah, I mean, I'll call it a night. So finish that chapter, and I'll just sit for a few minutes and let you guys discuss how do you think this stuff is. How do you like it? How are you guys feeling about it? You have a patron, right? A Patreon. Yeah, I have a Patreon. If that's what you meant. You could always put that link in there. Let me find it. There we go. It's very interesting, Martina, says Jay. Yeah, I think it is. I love this shit. We should do more parties and entertainment. That's what we need to be doing. But yeah. Let me know. Streamlabs.com/Martina Markota TV. Oh, well, that didn't work very well. Yes, quite good. Makes it hard to do these etiquette parties in apartments, but not impossible. Yeah, no, it's not impossible. It's the same thing in an apartment. Okay, so let me think. In New York City, I used to perform for this one incredibly wealthy Japanese lady, and she had a stunning apartment in Manhattan. It was an apartment in an apartment building, and I would do parties there. They were fancy. Everyone was dressed in suits and everything, tuxes or whatever. And her home was fantastic. There was a grand piano in the drawing room, and there was catered food. Everyone's dressed to the nines. There's artwork. I mean, she had artwork that was like on pedestals with like glass on it. Like she had artwork that had lights shining on it. It was like incredible. And yeah, when I got there, I go straight into one of the bedrooms that was my dressing room, and I had a bathroom in there with a bidet, and I would change and prepare for my performance and get ready. Other performers would also come into that dressing room and prepare for them, and they would give us food that was catered food and everything, and asked if we wanted a drink, if we need anything. The hostess was very nice, lovely. And then when it was time for the performance, they call you out, they announce you as the performer, and you do your thing. And it was lovely. It's great. So they did have the similar kind of situation. It was all catered. They all had places to put their coats. It was all the same very formal kind of thing. But it wasn't formal as in stuffy where you felt like you were doing something wrong. It was just formal as in taking care of you, like the hostess was taking care of the guests, made sure do you need a drink, do you have anything, all the other servants, the caterers would be there to help the hostess just get what they need so she can enjoy her party as well. and the hostess would take care of me and the performers, and it was all just very welcoming. And that's what etiquette is about. It's about making others around you feel comfortable and giving them respect, having respect for others around you. Do you have a booking agent? Yeah, I mean, I did. She had to stop booking me because all the other performers were like really pissed at her and refused to work for her if she was still hiring me. But yeah. I make designer cookies for high tea events. Oh, that's awesome. Well, you're in actually, I performed in Canada as well. For the theater that I worked at, we did some shows up in Canada and had to get a work visa for that. It was pretty good. Let me see what you guys are saying. Dan said, it's interesting to see how etiquette evolves. It makes one wonder about the organics of what has survived and what has been left behind. It's true. Jay said, classy, wholesome parties, not this degenerate shit show. True. It seems like the type of book I would read. Loving these live streams so far. Oh, thanks, Matthias. That's great. Yeah, well, the book, I think, is it possibly in the description? I'm not sure, but it's, there's the Guten Press or something. What is it called? The Gutenberg Press. It's, you can find it online. It's Emily Post Etiquette. What is Best Society or something. So yeah, you can find that. It's copyright free. It's good stuff. James said, Kevin said, hail chat, hail Kevin. James says, incorporate some fun things into your streams. I've seen one YouTuber write the names of people who donate to her on a coffee table, on a coffee mug while she drinks her beverage so people see the names. That's cool. I just don't know like how much it should blow up people that donate, because I feel like sometimes people just want to help me out and they don't want to be like super called out about it. It sounds dumb, but you would be surprised how many people donate just to get their names on the mug. Okay, cool. Dan said, at least before modern society began recently to enforce things inorganically. Have some work available if you can stand doing catering again. Yeah, I would. I actually contacted my old catering company that I used to work for, and told them that I'm ready to work, but then coronavirus happened. But they are doing some, the company who's donating their services, obviously they're paying us, but they're not charging anyone to pay us for doing some services in New York City, coronavirus stuff or whatever, helping things with Javits Center or whatever. But yeah, we did the Tony Awards. We did a lot of fancy stuff. I worked at a really high-end catering company, and they hired all models. So everyone was like gorgeous. We did stuff at the Four Seasons. Just really high-end parties and events. It was great. It was great. Balls, galas, very wealthy weddings, all sorts of stuff. I've done governor balls and things. It was great. Yeah, I would love that. If you want to send me a message about catering or working or anything, here's my email. It's on the screen too, actually. Martina Markota, nyc@gmail.com. There you go. All right, guys. Think I might bounce out of here. Any last comments, concerns, super chats, or what have you? Just let me know. Let me know. I think tomorrow, I know Dan has been waiting for alchemy stream, but I don't know. I'm a little annoyed about some of the alchemy streams because I want to get into it in a different way, kind of, than just reading, but at the same time it's really dense, so I feel like there will be a little bit of reading about stuff that I really do admire, and then have a little more like personal chat about it. So yeah. Alright, guys, I'll see you tomorrow. I think we'll figure out what to stream about. And maybe I got to take all your advice and notes, try to contact other people and schedule Schedule stream. I'll write that down. Schedule stream ahead of time. All right. Bye, guys.